Hello, hello. How's it going? I hope everybody's doing well. This whole SimCity thing is trucking along. I'm making it all high class now. See how many rich people we can get stacked up in here on top of each other. This talk is going to be about a couple things. I did this just welcome back a box breathing technique I haven't done for years. I usually follow along with this Navy SEAL Mark Divine guy who gets into a lot of that yoga breathwork stuff. I'll put a link in the description. He goes, he's a way better guide than I am, but I do what I can, and it was nice to focus on the breath for a little bit. And then I kind of get into this. It's kind of like a idea I had about a story that's underlying our lives, and just to kind of put some contextual background on it. You can think of, if you have a psychology, Jungian understanding, think about the ego. The ego in this context would be your identification to the story, how much you identify to it. And then there's a second level that I've been kind of talking about in previous videos that goes beyond the story. I describe it in a couple different ways. One thing I left out as a description for the second level is peace. There's peace, compassion, equanimity, unconditional love, and I just kind of go into that and how to bring that into our stories. So check me out on Twitter, Spirit Mixtape on Twitter. And I'm just, I'm basically just trying out the whole ghostwriting thing. So if anybody wants a ghostwriter for their business, it's not just spirituality. That's just something I'm into. It's easy for me to write about and find, that tone. But, with the advancements of artificial intelligence, Chat GPT, Bard, and all these other chat bots, I can pretty much find a language for any business out there, which is very interesting. Blogs, social media posts, all sorts of different stuff. Feel free to hit me up if that is a task you would like to delegate out to somebody. And beyond that, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and I just hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. So, without further ado, here's my talk. Welcome, welcome. All right. I hope everything's going well. There is a little breathing exercise I practiced today, which I thought was kind of cool. I wouldn't mind sharing it. So, it's called box breathing, and it's really it's an interesting breathing technique that we can all use. Actually, first time I did this was with one of my ex-girlfriend's children, who was like, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10. He kind of had a difficult time because his lungs were so small. But if you're an adult, I think this should be okay. So go ahead and get comfortable, find a nice place to sit, and just kind of settle in. Just take a moment to settle in with your body. Just kind of notice what's going on. And, for this exercise, and I would probably say for most breathing exercises, we're going to be breathing in through the nose. Feel free to soften your gaze, close your eyes. And in this technique, it's fairly simple. We are going to hold, we'll first start with completely emptying our lungs, and then we're going to fill our lungs and hold that for a count of 5. We're going to exhale the breath for a count of 5. Hold the exhale for a count of 5. And then inhale, count of 5. Hold, 5. Exhale, 5. And we just keep repeating this pattern. We can focus on the counting of intervals. There are also apps that we can download for this breath work called pranayama, which will have music that we can focus on that will change the tones during those counts, so we don't have to focus on the counting. I do not have that app downloaded, so I'll go ahead and just guide us. So go ahead and exhale all of the air out. And then go ahead and breathe in. And hold. And breathe it out. And hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Clear your mind. Breathe in. Hold. Out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Relax and clear your mind and hold. Breathe out. At this rate, we'll be doing about 3 breaths a minute. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Breathe out. All right. Breathe normally. How was that? How was my count? This is a nice, really nice technique that we can use in the morning, after a workout, before bed, on your break. It's a great way to clear our mind under stress. Also, with this technique, we're able to be aware of the control in our own body. We're aware of this physiology, and we can perform better. Breathing is something that we should practice at if we want to have it be effective. It's like working out. Your lungs, they're a part of your body like your muscles are. And when we're focused on controlling our breath, we're using our minds and our body together in order to focus our attention. So often, the issues that arise in our lives come from thoughts and the story and our ideas based around the things that happen. And so, forming some of these techniques, it's in practicing them, we have we create another opportunity, another option, so we don't have to be caught up in what our mind's telling us to do, which is very nice. I had this interesting thought the other night. I don't know if anyone else notices a story going on, but there's this story that's almost underlying our lives. Like we're living and we're going through life, and then there's a story also going on as we're living. And sometimes there are things that we come across in our lives that contradict the story, where it just doesn't, the story and the things that come up in our lives, they just don't match. They don't work together. And sometimes we come across parts of the story that contradict itself. We're going along, we're following our values and our beliefs, and then something happens, or we end up in a part of that story where the values and beliefs contradict. Like, how can I hold this value simultaneously holding a contradictory value? Or how can I hold this story, yet I'm living an experience that doesn't quite match up to that story? I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but when these moments arise, the contradictions or the living into a point where it doesn't make sense, those are the doorways to a transcendent area beyond the story. Because there is something beyond the story, and that is a space of love, non-judgment, compassion, and equanimity. And it's a beingness. It's an area where we can actually operate fully aware. And also at the same time, be aware of that story that's playing out. And when we come into these doorways, when we come into these moments where we can transcend the story into this realm of equanimity and compassion and unconditional love, we don't disregard the story. We don't throw it away, but we respect the story. And we find a new way to hold the story and operate within the story. And then we can come into the story and play a character which is emanating all of those various aspects of the transcendent level of compassion and equanimity and love. And so when you, in the story, your character, your subjective, when that comes across other separate entities, you express not who you think you are, but what that transcendent level is doing through you. I know this sounds very airy-fairy, and if this isn't making any sense, just let it drift away, let it just simmer on the back burner. But there's an interesting aspect of consciousness that is completely devoted to this level. Consciousness is going all over the place. I mean, you're conscious, I'm conscious, there's almost 8 billion people that are conscious. And consciousness is in duality because it's always in between something and nothing. By that I mean it's flowing in between that which is and that which is not. That which is and that which is not crafts this path, and that path is called the evolution of consciousness. So when this path leads consciousness to doorways that transcend the story, it doesn't break duality. Consciousness just understands that there is another way beyond this and that, something, nothing, good and evil. The enlightened beings are aware that duality is only relative. But it takes more than just experiencing the moments of transcending the story. Because coming back down into duality, we don't know we don't know how to make sense of it, because there isn't a framework within the story that allows that transcendent mode to exist. That's why enlightened beings only see themselves as a character expressing the transcendent level of compassion, equanimity, and unconditional love. They're just an expression of it. I think that most conscious beings that are living life and are gripped by duality, they're looking for an opportunity to transcend suffering. Because there's, in this story, like we can watch a movie and, when we're kids and something, or we're watching a movie with our parents, the disclaimer our parents give us is it's just a movie. It's not real. Like you can't just go out and be John Wick. Like, you're not John Wick. John Wick doesn't exist. But shit, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Okay. So the trueness of the story, right? Like, we know watching movies that that's not real. But when we're living life, we have this story going on that's telling us that the story's real. And it convinces us that the story is real by implementing suffering in our lives. So in this way, suffering almost legitimizes our reality. This is real because I suffer. The story is real because I'm suffering from it. Therefore, I can mark that this is reality. It's also a way to empathize. Like, I know I suffer. Deep down in the depths, there's suffering. We feel that deep down in the depths. And when we see someone else having a hard time, we're like, oh, damn. You're suffering. I know what that's like because I'm living too. And so you must be real. Because if you're going through that, I'm going through that. I know I'm real. You must be real. So it's like suffering's like a way to connect with each other as well. But then after a while of just going through character after character, scenario, plots, twists, ups and downs, we can become kind of tired of it. And we're, we're like, okay, enough is enough. I'm done suffering. But then where do we go from here? Where do we go if all I know of reality is a belief system that's held upon suffering, held up upon suffering? Like, suffering is the adhesive that keeps my belief system together so I can keep maintaining reality. Does that resonate with anybody? So these moments where we can pop out of the story a little bit, see, oh damn, there's like a blissful level. There's like a level where I'm not suffering, and that's bliss. When you come out of suffering, that's bliss. It's grace. It's like poking your head up out of the water, or like in the Matrix 3 when they flew up above the clouds and they saw the sun. They're like, oh my God, there's a whole actual world of sunshine that exists. Had no idea. I heard of that. I heard there was something like that, but wow, that exists. And then they fall right back down into darkness. But those moments where you actually witness the transcendent level, it now gives you another plot line. Meaning, there's another way. There is a way to live without suffering. And people have done it. People have written about it. People are living it. I can tell you that's truth 100%. And once we go back in under the clouds, back into the story, we can start to operate in a way that's technical to guide consciousness and help spread other conscious beings on a path that alleviates suffering and also has no suffering. You're constantly just shedding suffering as you go forward until you're completely done with it. And then more suffering comes, and then you just keep going forward, and it just keeps going away. You can be aware, you can suffer, you can have pain, you can have all the misery in the world, as long as you're not trapped in a box with no way out. Because there is a way out. It's called just straight beingness. People call it enlightenment. But everybody has an opportunity to sit back in their own beingness and experience this transcendent level. But the story is gripping us so tight, saying, look at me, pay attention to me, follow every word of my script to the T, or else you're going to be lost, straight up. Because I'm real, because I suffer, and you suffer. So what else is there? There is something else. And it's a great place to be. So, again, it's not enough to just experience these pockets of bliss and to be like, oh, damn, you're aware that these things exist. You have to now reconcile how to operate from this area in your own story. You have to reconcile that. Meaning, you're going to have to use your mind along with with this truth in order to live. And that's how you become enlightened. And so, if you don't have a story that includes the absence of suffering, you need to start building that story. If you don't want to suffer, if you want to keep suffering, then, you don't have to do any of this stuff. Practicing spiritual things, whether it be reading, chanting, meditating, breathing, pranayama, going into the various aspects of yoga, tantric, whatever you can find to bring yourself into a reconciliation of unconditional love, equanimity, compassion in a story that's formed around suffering. If you can do that, just then practice it, and then you're going to be also by proxy helping other people go to that same area. So let's continue our practice. And let's sit for a few minutes and see if we can focus our attention just on the rising and falling of our breath. The rising and the falling of our chest. May I be well. May I be happy. May there be love and peace and equanimity in myself and all beings on this world. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.